But I'm out tonight and I want to do a quick review on the TrueGlow Hyper-Strike SL sight, the SL, and I'm going to get into what it kind of compares to. You can kind of see it as I'm going around there. It has the sight line on it. The first sight I ever had with that, or the innovator I guess I would say, is IQ bow sights. I bought this for the sole reason that it had the little sight line in there. See if I can get it to pop back in there again. And what that does is, I'm going to focus on my string there. Come on. What it does is, in theory, it's supposed to eliminate bow torque, twist, things like that. You know, if you're gripping your bow incorrectly, things like that. It does an outstanding job, and I've really been pleased with the sight. It's good quality. This is not the Pro version. This is, I guess, what you would call the entry level. The bracket's aluminum, and then, no, I'm sorry, the bracket is like a coated plastic on this. And then you have the rest of it, the housing and everything else is plastic. It's not micro adjust, so you adjust it with some Allen screws. The plastic up here is to let your light in, and you can see here's your adjustments, your up and in, to adjust your sight line to get your everything adjusted. There's basically two reasons that I am changing out this sight. Number one, if you look at the sight aperture, at the very top, you see where that IQ sight line is. It takes away from the view of the sight, and I've had a lot of problems when I do 3D shoots, even hunting. My 20-yard pin is all the way up there, and what that does is that blocks out the view of the animal or the target or whatever I'm shooting. So it's been kind of a hassle, and you can tell I'm using the entire range of sight room that I have with this sight. I'll go over here and prove it to you. Here's my 20-yard pin, and here's my 60-yard pin. So I can't bring down that 20-yard pin anymore. That's just the way it is. The bow that it's on is a 2011 Carbon Matrix Plus. I've just added a few little accessories and things like that to it. I went from a Bowtech Allegiance, and the Bowtech Allegiance was more of a speed bow. So with that bow, these pins would have been a lot closer together, and I don't think I'd have the problem with what I have here with the cutting out of the sight picture. That's just inherent to this sight. I think it's going to be you know, it's just been a problem with me, and I was never really comfortable with that. Outside of that, I really like the sight. I've been very pleased with it. It's a quality sight for the money. I came across this just the other day, and I'm left-handed, so I apologize. Everything I do is going to be backwards. I came across this sight, and this has the sight line as well. There we go, now you can see it. So almost identical to the IQ sight. The difference is, look at my sight aperture now. I have a full field of view around that sight. This sight line at the bottom doesn't bother me one bit, because that's usually where your level sits. So I'm used to having some blockage down there. The other thing is, instead of what I had to do before, is when I wanted to line up my shots, you look here for your torque, there for your sight pin, and there for your level. Well, now I can get right onto my sight pin, and then I can go down and look and see at my level and my sight line is. So I'm kind of excited about this, to see what this does, see what it looks like. I've owned a lot of TrueGlow sights. They've always been kind of an entry-level sight for a lot of users. This one, for the money, I mean, I've seen them as high as $100. I got this one for $70. Woodbury Outfitters is who I bought it from. And I'm really impressed with the quality of this sight. This is aluminum, and if you notice, you have different settings, a high and a low setting, and then you have 3 positions so that you can position it as close as you want or as far out as you want from your bow. I prefer the farther out because I like to have a little bit to me it feels more stable, and I get a little bit better accuracy because of that. And I shoot a small peep sight too, so it gives me that aperture is small enough that my peep, or my aperture, fits inside my peep, so it gives me a little bit better shot. So it's a micro adjust, which is really nice. You just loosen the thumb screw here, and then turn the thumb screw here, and that's you get your windage and elevation. Comes with a sight light, 3-position sight light. It even says on there which position is which. Yep, 1, 2, 3. And you have your optics ring around the outside. Being left-handed, I had to basically disassemble this sight to make it mirror the right-handed sight, so that my thumb screws and everything weren't flipped and on the bottom, which is usually what happens when you're left-handed. So doing that, I also had to change my sight pins. This sight has their decreasing pin technology or something like that, where you start out at a 0.019 pin and go all the way down to 0.010. I'm getting older, and believe it or not, I like the smaller sight pins, because farther away, with the bigger sight pins, my focus doesn't want to focus correctly, so I bounce back and forth between the target and the sight pin. And I like to focus on the sight pin. So I was kind of excited about that. The downside is that I had to change all of those pins. So in doing so, besides the normal flipping of the thumb screws and everything like that for left-handed, I had to pull this cover off. And under the cover is this is actually white, like a thick plastic, and that's got a screw holding it together. Pulled that out, and then I took the pins, I left the orange pin in there, or the red, I just left it in there and flip-flopped the top 2 and the bottom 2, so that I knew which ones I needed to have in there. So I'm going to throw this on, I'm going to throw a couple shots downrange, and I'll let you know what I think. It took me about 5 minutes, I've got it on here. And like I said, I put it out to the farthest mounting position available. It's going to take me a little bit of sighting in. The aperture is smaller, so we're going to see exactly how it shoots. I'm not going to adjust my sight line right away. I'm going to leave that for the time being, and then focus on that after I get a few pins set. Normally I shoot from a hip quiver, but I picked up a new Octane quiver. And so far, I absolutely love this quiver. I love that it captures so much of the arrow. I've always had an issue with vibration in my quivers. There's movement on this quiver, but not a lot. It uses stiff carbon rods. It's got a nice foam insert in there. It's got a matte finish on the cover, the hood. Quick release, which is easy to get to. And like I said, it's got a better arrow capture than most of the quivers I've seen. A lot of them will double up and put another one up here, and I absolutely hate that, because you're trying to put your arrow in and you've got 2 capture places to put it in. This one here, once you get your carbons in there and you've shot them a few times, I mean, look, it literally basically just drops right in, and it's rubber, so it grips quite well. Gold tip Velocity Pro 300 arrows. This bow is not as fast as my Bowtech was. So what I found shooting my Hunter XT arrows that I used to shoot all the time is I had significant arrow drop at like 40 to 50 yards. So I went to the Velocity Pros. They hit harder, which I kind of like. I get a little bit more penetration, but they don't drop as much either. So I kind of like that as well. Limbdriver Pro arrow rest drop away. I mount mine to the bottom limb. That's just preference. You can go top or bottom. I've really been impressed with it. It's a very nice rest. It's not a full capture, which isn't a huge deal, I guess. I don't do a lot of spot and stock where I'm at. I sit in tree stands, blinds for turkey, things like that. Like I said, Carbon Matrix, TrueGlow stabilizer. It's got the weight discs out front. It's good, but to be perfectly honest, the best stabilizer I ever owned was the Bowtech factory stabilizer. I always called it the squid. It was the one that had the stubby thing and then a chunk of rubber and then a little deal that dangled off, and it had a bunch of little arms on it. That thing did phenomenal as far as vibration dampening and everything else. This does okay, but I don't think it's as good as that Bowtech was. But I'm going to shoot a few arrows and I'll give you my thoughts.